live from BLUG 2012. It is the social panel put together. Luis, Paul, and Femke join me as I moderate a panel all about what it means to be social and some of the best practices. We actually have a really good discussion. They close the doors. Are we ready? We're ready? We're ready already. Well, yeah. Apparently you closed the doors. You are. We go. Yes, let's go. So this one's a little different. He decided to come up with a new idea for this year for a panel. I think the reason was he just had a big room and didn't want to waste the room for the next 2 hours, honestly, is what we talked about. So he came up with a panel idea. That's lovely. Our lovely esteemed panel. So I had a nice slide so you can introduce them all if you all want to read this. You can. But I'll let you guys introduce yourselves first. But don't leave the microphone. And then we'll go through. Yes, ladies first. Ladies first.
Hello, my name is Femke. I work for sales sites in Gouden in the Netherlands. I'm a business consultant there, and I specialize in document management, business, social business, workflow, and
my name is Paul Mooney from BLUG Technology. I was a bit too social last night. I'm feeling it right now. I work in the IBM technology stack. I have done quite a lot of work in the collaboration platform for a long, long time.
I'm Chris Suarez.
Is that one on?
Okay, maybe now?
No, it's okay. Give it a second. There you go.
All right, now?
Yeah.
Sorry. My name is Chris Suarez. I actually work for IBM. I'm part of the software group, and my role in the company is working as a social computing evangelist. So basically, being a little bit of a visionary on where we are heading, or where we think we are heading, and trying to evangelize internal fellow colleagues and get them to understand that these social business rules are here to stay and make something like it.
Excellent. So the idea was that hopefully eventually you'll start asking your own questions. But we came prepared, I shouldn't say we, I did. And they have no idea what I wrote and what questions I had in advance. So I have a whole slew of things. Well, I want to make sure we had conversation.
Can we leave now?
Yes. And I think he picked me to be the antagonist. No, the idea was to have an open conversation and to include all of you. Questions about how you deploy, interaction, things like that. I'm going to ask them one to start, and then we'll open it. If you get questions, please ask as we go. Otherwise, I've got a list. But first thing Paul did mention, which was cool, that deals with this, is you and Gab, launched, it went today. Connections101.net. Is Gab here? I saw Gab. There she is. Connections101.net went live today, which will be, let me paraphrase, and you can correct me, a free blog type with screenshots and things, but about deploying connections.
Correct. It's an education site. It's going to take people from the start to the end, it's like a story of how to deploy connections, including.
Will it be tiers?
There will be multiple everything. We're going to bring them through from people that we assume zero knowledge. We assume you know how to use connections. That's the only thing we assume, and we assume that you're coming from the Lotus or Domino-ish world. But myself and Gab have been talking about this for a long time. What we're going to build is a education site which will bring you through an entire deployment, but teach you what it is, not just pictures and screenshots. We're going to say this is what DB2 is for. This is how Webster is being used. This is what this option does. And as opposed to click here, then click here, then click here, which is great, but we're trying to give something along the lines of teaching you how it is, and then it will be a lot easier for you to troubleshoot it. It will be a lot easier for you to take the fear away from Webster, and get used to actually deploying it and being able to work with it yourselves. As a question, because myself and Gab are interested, how many people here would be actually interested in even seeing this as a site? Because we're putting it up and deploying it anyway. It's a complete step through. Is that what you would like? Total step through of the site?
So what platform did you use to write this? Connections blog?
No, WordPress. We're putting it up. We're putting it. I have site space.
That's a very nasty comment.
Give me a break. We're putting it on WordPress because we have WordPress space, and we're posting it up there. And the idea is to make it as educational as possible. And teach you how to fish yourselves in the future.
Excellent.
And Gab is hiding, I presume. She's here. Oh, there she is.
So I'm asked the first one, then we have questions already, which is good. But Chris brought it up in his keynote, and I'm curious for the three of you, is he said that one of the first places he starts is either his iOS, like his iPad, or his Notes client. So in the morning, where do you guys start? Socially, where do you start? What's the first device or thing you pick up to get information? And what do you check on it? Because the other thing is the app. He'll say connections, or it could be Twitter. What's the first thing?
Okay, for me, the first thing that I really check is my iPad, and I check my Twitter stream because I do a lot of social interaction with, for instance, the US, and I get a lot of responses in the night. Second one I check is my connections environment on my iPad. So I do that even before I get up. I just literally do it while I'm still in bed, and then I take about 15 minutes doing that, and then I take my shower to go to work.
Either one of you, it doesn't matter. We're curious where you start.
I start with mail.
Email?
When I get up in the morning, my iPad is beside me in my bed, and I turn on my iPad and it tells me how many unread messages, because most of my customers live in mail. I live in mail, and everyone I know lives in mail. This guy is getting a rash already beside me. But there's, the world lives in the mail stream still, so I open my mail and check my mail. Then I check Twitter connections, everything else.
Okay, so the first thing that I do is gadgets, my MacBook Air.
You say Scotch? What did you say?
Gadget.
Oh, gadgets. Gadgets.
Computer.
Scotch.
No.
You got a great morning.
In the morning.
Sounds like a house I want to live in.
Although that's not such a bad idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, you will slow you down on things and things can happen. But the first thing that I do is I get up and obviously go to my MacBook Air after I do typical pit stops on stuff of the day, right? Funny enough, when I'm home, I don't use the iPhone or the iPad, which I know you may freak people out, but I don't. Why? Because the MacBook Air does it. And if you guys hold the MacBook Air, it's a gorgeous machine, and it's very elegant, and it just allows me to bring it like this one. Why don't I bring it with me when I'm traveling? Because I treasure it too much, and I don't want to lose it by mysterious hands kind of thing, right? Which is why I bring, I don't use a pen and paper. Things that I check first. My connections forward. People who know me internally in the company, they know that I live here. I don't live on email any longer, and probably we'll talk about that as we move forward. So that's the first thing that I do. I check what my networks have been doing. Why? The main reason is to find out whether I need to help someone. Someone who may be asking for a question, or for help, or presentation, for something for a customer, so I know exactly whether I need to chip in right away, or whether I can go and move on to something else. After connections board, Twitter. And after Twitter, Google+. Email, probably around, just about around lunchtime for 2 minutes to see whether I have meetings for the day, and that's it.
Okay. Now, does someone have one before I go through more questions? Okay, that's fine. So, go ahead.
So none of you go to your calendar first?
That's interesting. That's a good question.
Usually, I'm speaking for myself, I look at my calendar the last thing that I do the previous evening. So I know exactly what's happening the next morning at what time. So if someone sends me a meeting to meet up right off on that day at that minute, I tell them to back off, and I'm sorry, my day is really packed up. And I'm very religious in that sense. I only have 4 meetings per day because I need to do my job.
You're not serious.
I may not be, but I was just being told by someone else that thanks to my presence in X, Y, Z, they win a new customer. So the fact that I'm not in sales doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not involved in sales. But I look with my calendar, the last thing that I do in the evening, so I can see what's happening in the morning.
Yeah, I'm with them. I usually know what my calendar is the night before. When I say I check my mail, I'll see invites. But I know what I'm doing the next day. The night, at least I hope I do. The night before, and that's where I start.
And I'm very boring because I'm actually the same as these guys. I'm also checking it at night, and that's it.
So, John, is the first thing that you check yourself?
Yes.
What about you? Who checks their iPad first for mail? Or a device for mail? Who checks their device for mail in the morning, first thing? How many of you check it before you get out of bed? Well, I'm curious. Think about this.
How many of you are sleeping alone?
Yeah. it's become a mainstay.
Get alive.
It's become a mainstay. If you think about it, is before you get up to go to the computer. You may have your coffee and you go to the computer. Now, with the portable devices and tablets and your phones, you just reach over blindly and go and look at your device and go great and put it back down. How many of you then stay in bed after seeing your email? Just curious. Yes. Stay in bed.
Well, your iPad is also usually your book reader.
interesting because Chris said that this is an IBM theme. So you'll get to, I know you like this, you'll jump right in there. He said social every place is an IBM theme, right? It's social everywhere. Do you think it's the information or it's the technologies are getting us that makes it social every place? Either one, it doesn't matter.
I'm a strong believer in the social everywhere. Not from the technology perspective because I think it sucks, technology. And the proof is what happened to Chris this morning with connectivity, that he couldn't do the proper job as he could have done. But I think that the social everywhere is about people connecting with people. That's the social everywhere. And regardless of where you are, regardless of with whom you are, it's just getting into the conversations. And technology just becomes the tool, the means to achieve that conversation. And I think that the way I see it is that we need to move beyond that focus on technology, which I know is very difficult for us, all geeks and nerds and everything. But we need to go beyond that and focus on what we want to do with that technology.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. For me, social media and the use of all kinds of social tools is really a way of connecting to people and taking it on outside of the social technology stream into real life, again, into business or contacts or friends or even like last night going to the apartment and just meeting up with all the guys there. So that's what social or being social is for me. It's a way of getting into real relationships, not an end in itself.
No, I will say, I'm going to ask, are you going to answer, Paul? No, I was going to say, I wrote this yesterday. You know this question was on there. I didn't do this after Chris's thing or this morning, but I asked why are we saying email now is not social? Why are we feeling now that it's not social? I wrote this days ago, but why are we feeling it's not social?
Paul is going to answer first.
Well, either way.
Paul is going to answer.
I've got more questions about it, so either one of you can go first.
Paul lives in England, so Paul can answer that better than I can.
I would say email is still the most common form of communication that I do with pretty much everyone I know from a business perspective. If I take it out of the site, I take it to personal life. You're doing Facebook a lot, and there's Twitter, but predominantly Facebook for family, friends. Twitter for more people in the technology realm. Like my mother doesn't know how to Twitter account, but she has a Facebook account. But when it comes to business stuff, it's mail. Is mail social? Well, mail is one way. It's unidirectional. It's not open and visible to everyone yet, unless you make it and design a system that can do that. So, do I consider mail as a method of social communication? Yes, I do. It's not the best method. It serves a very good purpose, and it does a very good thing. It's been doing it a long time, and it'll be around for a long time. I've customers running Note 6.5 just using it for mail, so they just keep on using it.
We have a customer with 513, so 5013. So, and I know you want to answer, but I'm going to ask you, it is multi-way. And one interesting point that Chris made was how many of your kids email you versus text. Text is more personal than even email is. Text is a very unique one-on-one, conversation. It has nothing to do with social, but it's very social between you and the person you're talking to. So is social the definition of we're sharing information, even though it's in text or an email, or is it because no one else can see it's not social?
Well, obviously, for those people who know me, they know that to me, email is not the most social. And later on, I'm actually going to be doing a workshop that you're all invited to participate if you want to on why I'm saying that. Email per se, and this is what I have been telling people for the last 4 years I've been doing this, email per se is not about tool. It's got good use cases there. What I don't like about email is how we abuse it. It's how we abuse it to actually kill our own productivity, right? How many times have you guys involved with political emails? With bullying emails? With the CC, BCC? With the 30 attachments that Chris mentioned? How social is that? And people say, yeah, that's social, I'm sharing. No, you're actually diminishing people's productivity to do something else because you have sent that email. That's what you're doing. You're just killing the productivity right there. And I agree with Paul that for some businesses, companies, they live on email and they sort of like breathe it, if you want to call it. But at the same time, if you ask those businesses what their corporate culture is like, it's one where they compete against each other and not they share with one another. That's problem number one that needs to be fixed. Nothing to do with email. It's a corporate culture problem that needs to be fixed.
It's kind of interesting because I'm more or less in the middle here probably. For me, email is just one of the ways of connecting to people, and it's not necessarily a dominant one or a less dominant one. It's just one of the tools, and I find that I have my conversations on different levels in different tools. It's a different mode DM or through Skype chat or through an email because I figure like, okay, this is going somewhere that I don't want to be public. So it's also about finding the combination of the different tools that are available and using them in an optimal way.
Yeah, that's a good comment because you hear people say take it offline means email. You know, that's
No,
you
not
know,
necessarily. You
well,
can also
Which,
do it,
which to me, Paul, means that you're hiding something.
oh no,
I
agree.
know from
I
you,
agree.
from the other side. If you wanna, and I can imagine that say, yeah, because I wanna hide something because this is maybe like a sensitive
Yeah.
conversation, which is when I find a good use case for it. But in reality, when you actually engage in that exchange with email, you realize that that could have been to public streams with no problem, regardless. And it was just that the person wasn't feeling comfortable because they didn't want to show that they're not as experts as they think they are, which means that they're not ready to admit their limitations. Secondly, they think that by using that private email, they have got a special relationship with you, and therefore they feel that they have got a better position over you, and whatever else. So they back into the political game.
But don't we have to be careful not to say that hiding is a bad thing? Right, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing to need to hide something. It doesn't make it antisocial to hide stuff just because it has to be between you and I. We cannot share it. Doesn't mean that
Of course.
hiding is bad.
Which is, if that's what I have been saying all along. To me, that's except for John knows this already, but calendaring and scheduling is one of the use cases for which I still use email. Right. The second use case, and those are the only two, is that kind of conversation of one-on-one, private, sensitive nature conversation where I prefer to have that conversation through email. Like for instance, when you're talking about HR matters with HR, right? As an example. Now, the interesting thing from there is that the need to keep that conversation private is going to be a mutual agreement between both parties. And in most cases, we don't do that. What we do is, I feel it's private, so it's private, right? And in most cases, when you actually challenge that, you find out that that could have happened in a public stream and nothing would have happened, right? So to me, for instance, the last time that I sent a one-on-one email, that's probably around 4 or 5 months ago. 4 or 5 months ago. And that was because someone was asking for legal counsel on something that was happening.
He doesn't have any friends.
But you would never, you would never deliver a proposal in a public stream.
No, but that's true. I would never deliver a proposal in a public stream, but why not on a private file sharing space where you and the customer are there and you can invite accordingly the parties that you need?
Which, interestingly, and depending on the system you use,
Independing on the system you use.
depending on the system, I'm saying, depending on the system he uses, for him it may be a simple drag and drop, but the customer will receive an email notifying him that you've shared the file with him.
Right.
Because the choice then goes to the user how they use it.
One of the things that happens when I'm sort of like saying, let's challenge the status quo of email in the corporate world, automatically everyone thinks Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. No, there's like thousands of options out there that could be better fitted for that kind of social interaction or private interaction or whatever.
But doesn't it come back to the tooling? Just like I said, the only way you can deliver calendar invites by email. That's just because the tooling isn't there.
That's right.
Right. So everything comes down to the actual tooling and the tool support available to you.
Yes. And sometimes, I get sometimes the question of people telling me, yeah, you're lucky because you work for IBM, so the tooling is there. 10 years ago, I would have said, yes, I agree with you, because we probably had the technology back then. But nowadays, with the options that are there from social networking tools out there, it's no longer like I'm lucky. It's just that we are all lucky to have those tools, so we just need to make use of them.
Can I just ask
Go ahead.
add a bit to this? Because for me, my email is also something like a social aggregator, almost. What I find is I'm connected on so many different levels and so many different environments. I'm on Greenhouse, I'm on an IBM hosted environment, I'm on our own environment, I'm on at least 3 other connections environments, as well as doing Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. So I need somewhere where I can aggregate everything that's happening and going on in all these social networks. And I find that most of my email are actually updates from the different networks that I do, and finding that together.
There's a great joke by Eddie Izzard. When he does a whole section about Facebook, and he says, "Oh, Facebook is like my butler." So people used to email me. Now they don't. They put it on Facebook, and Facebook emails me. And it tells me something to read. It's like my personal assistant. But the irony of the joke was now instead of getting the data that I wanted, I now get a data saying click here to do something else to get the data that you want. So there's a pro and con to doing that, and the pro to it is that the data is in a space that you can utilize it better or share it or do what you want to do with it and give it around. But there is a conception from some people saying, I have one particular site with connection, and immediately they said, we don't want to look at connections because it looks like LinkedIn, which has a terrible interface. And it genuinely doesn't have a terrible interface. So that, once we start showing them how we use it internally as a small company, like only 26 people, but our staff live and breathe in connections and use everything internally in the connection system. And the best demo we have is just showing you how it works, how we use it from day to day. It's better than any demo that I've ever tried to, fake data, fake demo, fake anything. Put it in context, and it's a really good tool.
So short, they want to go to his question.
Yeah, and what I was going to comment is, what Frank mentioned is actually the only, for me, from my perspective, and take that with a pinch of salt. For me, what she said is basically the only way for email to survive in the next few years, which is transforming itself into a social messaging and notification system of content that is stored elsewhere. So we go from email being treated as a content repository to being a notification system, which funny enough, 40 years ago when it was first invented, that was the only use case that email had. Notify people of content that's stored elsewhere. 40 years later, we come back to it. So,
we're going to come back to a question about that too.
Yeah, but one quick comment final. And then Paul says, why is it that I need to go then somewhere else to get my content? This is one of the biggest problems with email, that we have always felt that it's an individual activity versus a group activity. And that's where we need to change mentalities as well, from the perspective of saying that we need to go elsewhere to find that content now, because that's where also everyone else can find it. They cannot find it on my inbox, because only me has got access to the inbox. So the real value there is when you share it in a group space that everyone can have access to it. And it obviously requires the extra effort that you need to go there, but you know that everyone else is going to benefit just as much as you do.
So he's been waiting patiently.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, I would like to tell a concrete question. I come from Germany, and when I look at our customers and our situation, one thing is very different to the things you tell us, because we, as we have heard, we have to change the organization of the companies to do this, and the companies are not interested to change the organization. They feel many people lose time with reading emails, and they are looking for changing this, but at the same time they are not interested to change the organization, and they feel no pain of this situation. So I think all the things you tell us is personally very correct and very interesting and very future orientated, but the question is, will IBM lose the contact to the base because the base does not understand what's happened here? Or the second question is, how can we help the companies to come this way? And I think it's the most important thing we all think about. How can we help them to feel the pain in the right way and to get step by step? I feel IBM lives in 2025 and we live in 1999.
We can do this in two.
Yes.
I had a question based around this. So answer his question, but this will help. The first thing you tell a new customer, when we're talking social, the very first thing you say to them to help sell it, what is the first thing that you all tell them? Because it helps answer his question. So when you walk in and get their interest to change.
Mine is a very simple question. What is the business problem that you're trying to fix?
Yeah.
Simply that.
Well, you're asking.
If a customer comes and tells me, hey, all of this thing about social, what can you tell me about it? I say, I don't want to talk to you about it. I want to tell you what is it that you're trying to fix. Because if you want to do social because everyone else is doing it, you're doing it wrong. If you're doing social because it's the hype, it's the buzz, and it's everyone getting there, you're doing it wrong. If you tell me, hey, right now I'm having this business problem, how can I fix it? Then I can tell you whether social can fix it or not.
I think he's
That's the wrong answer, because they would not invite you, because they don't feel they need this. They would not like to do social.
His question, I know it's question about it. It's not so much I'm doing right, that I don't know. It's
not the wrong side and not the right side. They don't need social.
So you tell me
at your private time, not in the company.
So you tell me then that the customer is telling you that they don't have any business problem?
They don't know that what will solve it is his question. How how would you go in and say?
One thing is not knowing. One thing is not admitting and acknowledging that you have a business problem. Which back again, it means that you have got a corporate culture problem, where you don't admit failure, whether you don't admit that you have got problems that you need to fix, or whether you don't admit that other people may tell you how to get over those problems.
What I do is when we go to talk to customers about various things, simply put, when I want to actually show them a concept of a social technology tool, and it's usually connection, so we put it on the screen, but it could be any tool. I demonstrate how we use it internally, but I also say, look, I did not know that 2 of our guys just passed the Salesforce exam. And I did not know this, and I can read this, and they would never have emailed me to tell me. But I can see that they're adding these things, and I now know more about my company, and I know more about what we all do by just looking at this once a day or twice a day and using it. So there was a line about if HP knew what they actually knew, they would be twice as smart. You know, if they knew if I knew what everyone in Blue Wave was doing every day quickly and without all the other stuff, they would be. You know, I know more. I guys in Blue Wave know I'm here, and that's where I go in. I walk in with that, and I'm not really going in saying what's your problem. I'm just going in saying, this makes us work better, and we're a company. We're not just a technology place trying to sell you stuff. We are a business that actually does stuff, and I don't know where Louis is, I don't know where Fang is, and this is how we work, this is how we operate. And Gab has done this as well. Like we found that to be our most successful way of talking to people. And when they see that, they realize they have a problem. They see that, they realize they have a challenge. Not necessarily a problem, because they're still doing their day-to-day job absolutely fine, but they realize they could probably do it better and know a little bit more. Because I'm learning stuff about our guys every day that I did not know. And we're a small company, and I should know.
You want the matrix up, just plug you in and
just jack you up.
Jack you up and give you the information.
Not with gin. Gin and tonic would be bad.
Now, Paul's example is really good because it introduces something that the corporate world does not have, which is transparency. And being comfortable in telling what you're doing to everyone, even to total strangers. How many of you are comfortable to tell everyone exactly what you do every day? Hands up. The rest of you can go. Because that's the problem that you're having right now for not being social enough. If you don't feel comfortable sharing what your workload is, you've got a problem that you may be in the wrong job.
Well,
Define
you need
to have there are twins, trust and transparency are the twins. And if your company gives you not the trust, you cannot give the transparency. So it's again a question of the organization. You always talk about organization, and we here cannot change organization of big companies. And big companies are very slow in changing.
Who's this week on the web? Oh, Gab's got one. She's got the mic. Gab's got the mic.
I want to make a couple of points. We keep talking about broken corporate cultures and changing cultural organization. These are people. You know, this isn't broken. You know, a board can sit down and say we have a new corporate culture, but underneath that are human beings that have their own drivers. And when you say you're not prepared to share what you do every day, then you're in the wrong job. That's absolutely not true. There are layers within how people work, what drives them, how they connect, and there's a degree of bullying in saying everybody has to share everything or you're not doing your job right and everyone has to be social. And what happens is those people that are good at that, those people that tend to be more extrovert and prepared to share information and able to connect, they will dominate that space. And the people that have a lot to add to the business, they're not being given a channel, and in fact they are being diminished within the business, being told that they do not have the right personality type for the new corporate cultures being adopted. And I think that those skills and those people will be lost to companies because we are raising up a certain personality type and pushing down other personality types. And I think is our new corporate culture, which is everyone
Are you raising
shares.
your hand?
Get in there and do that.
Paul has the mic, but he's raising his hand. How many of you noticed, before Paul answers, how many of you noticed, since IBM went social business, how many of you noticed an influx of IBMers that are on Twitter, that are on LinkedIn, that are connecting to you and following you, and all of a sudden...
And then they use email to let you know that
yes. But not only that, but that they're being pushed, as Gab was saying, in that direction.
Yeah, but they're following.
Yes.
They're not adding to the
Correct.
conversation.
That's the difference.
They are lurking in conversation. And a lot of those people have value.
She brought up the lurker word.
Yeah.
There's a very good point there that it's all about people. Another thing that I disagree with is when if I walked to a customer site and told them they were doing it wrong, they would tell me to get the hell out the door.
Yeah.
I can say, here's how we do it. And if you show it to them right, they identify that they could do their job better and they could have their people better. I can't walk in and I can't walk in with that level of aggression to someone who's writing a check.
Here's a tool that, you know what, I've seen what you do, here's how you do it better, this may help you. And it may not even be a social.
But my demos are always in context. I say, here's how it helps me. And here's forget that we're technology, we're a company, we're a business, and this is a tool that we use to make ourselves better.
And I think there's a certain degree of humility about the fact that I'm identifying something that may be a problem in your business, but the cost of your manufacturing may be a bigger problem for your business to deal with, which they want to deal with through a different route that's nothing to do with social networks. And I may believe that introducing greater transparency and more public sharing is going to help with that problem. But it's very difficult saying to customers very focused on these are key problems in the business to be able to say, yes, but if you introduce that, that's going to eventually help you get to the end of that problem.
So, well, again, this may roll to the next. I had an error. This may. No. I'm just trying to keep us going.
Can I answer her since she basically does not agree with my argument?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll give you a minute.
Thank you.
Tell Neil we need 2 hours.
No, it's fine. You know, I think that you raised a very good point. To be honest with you, and it's that, like I said before, it's not about people and everything else. Now, when I'm mentioning about not feeling comfortable with what you share, I'm not saying that you're necessarily an introvert. I'm saying that you're proud enough, or whether you are proud enough of the work that you're doing.
I don't think it's always pride. For some people, like I say, I have met people who will refuse to share because it's job protection. This is my job.
Right.
My knowledge must be
Right.
But they are the minority. There is a huge number of people that don't share because they actually are intimidated. They don't have the confidence, the personal confidence.
But they shouldn't. And I tell you, no, hang on for a second. Hang on. I tell you why they shouldn't. They shouldn't because if they have got their own networks, and in those networks they have got the extroverts should have the balls to protect them. In my to give you an example, in my own experience, like Paul says, some of my most powerful ambassadors that I work with, they are the most shyest people ever on earth.
You're very lucky.
And yet, no, it's not. This is not lucky. This is about how you build and cultivate your network.
No, but a network is human beings.
Exactly. But it's understanding who they are and what they're good at, and trying to get them to excel that. So how can I do that? How can I do that if I don't know them?
No, but you're asking people to overcome what is an emotional barrier for them by saying you shouldn't have it. Well,
I'm not saying that.
Well, let me ask this, and this may help, and I'll let you answer.
Because I'm not getting a chance to say anything otherwise. So. One of the things I think is there are different views within an organization, and you need to respect that everybody has a different way of treating social and wanting to be social, and some people just don't want to be. That's fine. Doesn't mean that they are not utilizing it, because they might be lurking, and this is used as a negative term. I don't see it as a negative term.
It's not.
I mean, you're still consuming the information that is being provided, so you are actually participating in the social process because you're using it. So I'm really okay with people having different roles within that and having different levels of engagement, as long as they know that it's there and they use it for the things that they think are important to them.
And something's been lost, and this is a key thing. How many of you are more open when you communicate when you're anonymous? When you're anonymous and you can say what you really think, how many of you at work would be more open? If you could, with no tracing, no ID, you could say what you wanted to say, you would be more apt to say it. The difference with the social business tools is your profile is identified with you, which is another reason more people are hesitant, not just for knowledge, but also because of you're held accountable fully for what you say. Where in some of the other networks, you can be who you want to be, pretend. But at work, in a connections environment, whatever, you are now accountable for not only the files you produce, but you're accountable for your comments and your actions and reactions.
It's also a growing process. I mean, when you start off with this social business and you're being social, most people are very sensitive to actually share things.
Yep.
They are very protective about the information you share. And, I mean, I started about 3 years ago, and I opened a Twitter account in 2009. I didn't do anything with it for the first year. I was lurking, literally, because I didn't dare put anything on it. I didn't even put my own name on it. So I had an anonymous Twitter account.
Was that you?
Yeah, that was me. But I mean, it's a growing process. Over time, I've kind of started realizing, okay, I want to engage. And do I want to engage as an anonymous person? Do I want to engage as a real person that people know who I am? So I changed my name, but didn't change my handle, my Twitter handle. And now my Twitter handle is Femke Goedhart, and on every network you can find me as Femke Goedhart, and I share everything. I mean, I'm pretty open about my life and about work and the things I do. But it's not something that happened overnight. It's something that happens over a period, and it's a question of seeing and experimenting with it.
We asked Paul to be more private, but he keeps sharing. It's constant.
And I think that Femke is absolutely right. You know, when people, if someone tells you you need to be more social, that's when you tell them back off. I will be whatever I want to be. Right? It's you defining your space and adjusting to that space. But interesting what Chris's comments about anonymity. I think it is very revealing that we have to use anonymous comments to tell how we really feel about our businesses. I mean, I'm quite okay, and I've been okay for the last 11 years I've been using social support tools to say what I think, even if it is not politically correct, with my full name behind it. Will it get me fired? Probably. Will I care? No. Because at the end of the day, it's my opinion that gets shared.
All right, we're going to shorten answers because we've got 15 minutes.
And it's, I'm going back to kind of basics and brass tacks here, and I don't mean to, but if people want to stay anonymous, let them stay anonymous. If they want to do this, let them do it.
But you can't do that in the environments you're selling. Today, as IBM, you cannot stay anonymous. There is no way to do it.
Well, like I'll give you an example of a connections deployment we've done.
Yeah.
And it does happen to be in Ireland. And the connections deployment's biggest problem was that the HR department didn't have all the data for the profiles fields, and it was all over the place. And we were pumping the data out in the end via LEI, taking it from various different sources. But then you have problems with the unions, because the staff in there didn't want to start filling out and correcting their own addresses, because that's not their job, that's the HR department's job. The HR department were threatening to go on strike and call the union people because they thought their jobs were at risk. But how many people does that sound familiar to, though, with businesses and companies? Like, once you head upstream of businesses, these are the challenges that you find. All people want is tools to do their job quicker, better, faster, cheaper.
Okay.
And that's it.
Awesome answer. And he's going to ask the question, and that's the section we had.
Is this working?
Yeah.
No, I just wondering, would you agree that it's best that it's adopted from top down, but it's also fostered or encouraged from bottom up? So like you were talking about the extroverts on the site, they're the ones that are being social. So you've got your corporate have said, okay, we'd like you to use this. You've got the people at the bottom, the superstars and the extroverts, they're the ones who are actually being social. And do you think that then those people who are the shy type, or it's not their personality, that they start saying, oh, okay, this is actually quite painless, this is harmless, nothing's going to happen?
Minute each.
Okay, well, one of the things that happened to me a couple of weeks ago was that I went to a Jammer conference. Jammer is a connections competitor in this case, and I wanted to see what it was all about. And the reason I wanted to see it was that I had a lot of people in my private network that were actually using Jammer, and I kind of like, okay, what it's all about. But the thing that was interesting with Jammer is it's a bottoms-up application adoption program. So anybody can start a Jammer community for their company. It doesn't take any money to do that. It doesn't take any IT involvement, and they just invite their co-workers. And before you know it, you've got 400 people within your company using Jammer actively. Jammer is not doing any advertising in the Netherlands. They still have 500,000 paid customers right now in the Netherlands. for something that isn't being marketed, but it's just adopted through the bottoms up, I think that's remarkable.
And that's an external network that's not your corporate data.
I have a customer who's using Jammer, and they have 200 communities where there are only 10 with more than 10 people.
Yeah.
So the numbers, I always wonder if it's really being used without any social adoption program.
I know, but it does show that there is a need also at the bottom layer for doing social stuff.
It will definitely
it will definitely show that there's a need for social. People want to do social. Same goes for everybody on LinkedIn, Facebook with your company, and it's a great. You want to have social business, and your people already doing it. Only they're not doing it on an optimal way. So that's where Jeremy is good for.
Yeah, they are, and I mean this goes for any social platform that you implement. If you don't actually try to get it to do more than just a conversation, then it will just remain that, just a conversation. You need to get it into collaboration and make sure that people are using it to do their work.
And you don't get a minute every time he talks. You don't have to start over. Okay, let's go.
My thought on that, it reminds me in a very strange way of Quick Place. Who here remembers Quick Place?
How many still have Quick Place?
How many people still have Quicker?
Yeah, same.
I'll explain why. When you first installed Quick Place 2 years ago, the default was anybody could create a Quick Place. You ended up with thousands of Quick Places, all with segmented data, all not being used, holding crap that nobody wants, and then some stuff that's really useful but nobody knows where to find it. And when you're talking about open source social tools, non-moderated tools, for example, that's the fear, is that the data is actually even harder to find. You know, I'm like Dropbox being a great example. I love Dropbox. How many people have Dropbox?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone has Dropbox. Dropbox is absolutely great. Try to manage Dropbox with more than, say, 50 people. I went on a bike trip to get here. There were 7 people that was like herding cats, so we used the Dropbox. But people are deleting stuff out of Dropbox because they don't want that anymore. And it gets deleted from everywhere else. You know, because they don't understand like the mechanism. And these are IT people. Some of them are speaking. But these are, you know, guys that are actually. I am guilty as well. But you know, if you look at all these great tools, there's great concepts behind those tools. But some of those tools, will they exist in business and hold that data in business? And people, are they idiot-proof? Are they designed, you know, with moderation, for example? Are they designed with data retention? Can you put them in? Where is it? Is it a cloud-based tool, especially if there's people here from Germany? Is it a cloud-based tool? Where's the data? You know, that's a huge question to answer. If it's local on-premise systems, what's the moderation like? What's the security like? So, like anybody can build, almost anybody can build a product, a social. Someone shoot me if I keep saying that word. Social tool product, and put it up online for anybody to use. But how does that make me do my work better, or is the information all over the place and not findable anymore? I'm sick to death of social systems. I was asked to join, what was that? Not Instagram. What's the new one? Pinterest. No, I said no. I created an account and I said screw it. I'm not joining another bloody social network. You know, I want my data in one place. I want to stream, which is where things are going. But that stream, ironically, at the moment for me is email, because all the notifications come in an email. And it's sad, but it is quite true.
Right, quickly, you're just going.
So going back to the comment from the regional gent on the back, I think that there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a hybrid approach where you need to have grassroots, bottom up, and top down executive and sponsorship, big fund executives. Because at the end of the day, and I think that you guys will agree with me, they have to pay the budget. They have the money, they have the decision power, and if they're not got in over the course of time, and this is not about 1-2 year project, this is talking about lifetime shift of how business is done. If you don't get your executives involved in supporting and sponsoring and leading the way, you're probably going to be in that day.
Yeah.
At least without the project. Right.
Did you have a question? Go ahead.
Well, no, this is more a statement to get a reaction. I think us calling stuff that people want social is crap. Unless you're an IT person in marketing or PR, you don't know what social is, you don't care it is. All you want to do is get your job done faster, right? And if you look at, there's small companies where they have people take out their credit card and buy an account on, one of these sites that was before social. What's the lightweight PM's product? There's some of these products you can go, it's $30 a month,
Oh, yeah.
and you can just go do project management.
There's tons of
Salesforce.
Right.
Not only that, there's tons of those. Podios and all the others.
And so I think part of the problem is we keep talking about social, and you get this blank stare from anybody but the CEO who was on a plane reading the, airplane magazine that talked about social. We have to talk about how do we solve business problems faster in the way the users want, right? They want to do on their iPad because that's their device. So to me, the problem is I feel like we're all shoving social down people's throats. We have to change the conversation.
So is the ROI, so return on investment, a lot of you hear that, right? ROI. Is the ROI giving them a better technology or because they share more data? So is it giving them the device like Chris did it, right? He gave same time, I click, I save money because I'm using real IP instead of the phone. But is it about giving them the technology or is it because they're being more social and sharing data?
No, I think that is they're being more effective and more
productive. Is it because of the technology though, or because
the technology is an enabler, which is when people tell you what is the ROI of social software, I tell them that's bollocks. You don't measure the use of the tools, you measure the outcomes. What you produce, what you deliver with the use of those tools. That's what it's measured.
And a lot of people ask this, and
right.
You should be asking this of your company, is can you measure the ROI of the social stuff? Can you actually?
You shouldn't. I mean, what you're asking, and this is something that I want to ask you guys, right? We all have been using email, phone, same time, instant messaging. How do you measure the ROI of those tools? You don't. What you measure is what you have been capable of doing with those tools, which is getting work done. So social, as such, what it does is it allows you to get the work done, perhaps in a much faster way, saving you time, perhaps reaching out to customers, perhaps building your reputation, perhaps establishing yourself as a subject matter expert. But at the end of the day, it's all about the business revenue that you're going to generate. That's what CEOs are interested in. They don't care about how you do it, what tools you use, as long as you make it. That you use social tools because it makes you more productive and you get better business results. So be it. But Paul is doing it with email and he's just as successful. Who are we to judge?
Can I ask
you judging me again?
Yes. No. Can I ask a fun one? Next one. Do you think it's appropriate to use social acronyms inside of the business system? Like it's, we're taking LOL the next step, right? The new ones. SMDH, shaking my damn head, rolling on the floor, laughing my ass off. I mean, do you feel it's appropriate to take these social terms and bring them into the corporate environment and make them publicly shared?
The answer, it's you see, your last part was the interesting part, make it publicly shared. What is publicly shared? If that is the way they operate and communicate and they're happy operating and communicating that way, that's fine. But if there's a legality, if there's terms of usage and conditions depending how big the company is, no, you can't.
Well,
but mind you, how many times you type in LOL in an email or ROFL? Like loads of times, and all that stuff you probably have data retention to deal with anyway.
Well, let me extend it because a lot of the connections and the pieces of the widgets are bringing in external data. So the filter controls are lost, right? They want you to bring in the LinkedIn contextual information, bring in their Twitter stream so I can see what they're doing today, bring in their connections environment as well. So now you're bringing in that external data. Where's that control? So is that appropriate, or now do we need filters for that?
Isn't that part of social capital?
That's the question. Is it socially acceptable in the business?
So how do you guys feel about it? All of these things, are they part of social capital? How do you guys see social capital in that context?
Any language.
There's the mic. We got two mics. That's fine here.
Any language changes all the time, not only English. Today it's an abbreviation and tomorrow it's a word, like LOL.
Okay.
I don't mind.
Chris is American, there is only English.
I think it's important to come back to the language thing, because the thing you need to make sure is that everybody is speaking the same language when you're talking about social. And I'm not literally talking about all speaking English, but about understanding each other. And one of the things, for instance, when you're talking about the acronyms, LOL is an actual Dutch word. And in this case, luckily it means more or less the same, so it works. But I mean, you have to be careful with those kind of things, because if you're working in a multilingual environment and you're using acronyms, they could mean something totally different in a different language. I mean, SOA, SOA. Don't say that in Dutch. I mean, it's acronym for STD in Dutch. So Flickr, the photo network, it's actually the same word for faggot in Dutch. So you have to be careful about using specific terminology if you're doing that in social, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it.
Again, I often go back to the company standpoint. Anything that if you're using it for business, you may have data retention. You may have data that has to be stored. You may get called for that for legal requirements, HR requirements. But it's just like email. If it's corporate, you put in stuff that, in theory, you should not be worried about if you get a call one day by the legal department. In theory, and if you're using a social tool, if it's on-premise social tool, it's being backed up. All that data is being retained somewhere. So you follow the same guidelines. It's just easier and more accessible.
So we got one more, since I went out there, I've got one built in. I've got 2 questions, but I'll give you the good one. So he showed things like the new files, capabilities, and now the sharing in Microsoft Windows, which is DOM-Doc, right, from what we had years ago. It's the same thing as DOM-Doc, and just brought it back. What do you guys feel? You got like 30 seconds each on streams versus organization, meaning they want you to have this whole stream idea with constant things versus what we know today. Your users know folders, sorting, being able to do all that stuff versus a stream of information. Do you feel there's a value in the stream that you can't keep up with, you can't see, or that you should be able to go back and view, or do you think that the folders are a good?
Well, it's an education. Tagging is foldering at a different level.
Well, that taxonomy is different. That's a different question because taxonomy and loose taxonomy versus taxonomy are totally different things.
No, but it's perception. In my opinion, it's perception. If you have people tagging under different areas and you actually put that in front of them and say this is the same as foldering and there's your all documents view, which is your stream, and you can go in and search under different things. Personally, it would drive me insane to get everything in one stream. But that, unless I really start filtering my streams.
Right, and Chris had on the board, so everyone knows, he had taxonomy at the bottom, which was the old Raven discovery server that Domino had, and now they moved to folksonomy, which is being able to tag things yourself. I don't always agree with folksonomy because I believe that things can be mistagged. We would lose information. Paul may call it, he may call it connection, and that makes it connections. Yeah. Those 2 items never relate again. So unless the business has a structure, a loose structure, but some sort of structure.
But if you relate that to mail, you'd make the same mistake.
I could put in a different folder, but it's index search and everything else. Go ahead.
I think it shouldn't be exclusive. I think the tools should offer both because there are people that are more comfortable working with a folder structure and there are people that are more comfortable with a stream type of information sharing. So it shouldn't be exclusive. You should be offering both systems to them.
We don't need to ask him because he's in the stream right now typing. Yeah. It doesn't really matter.
A quick comment. I think that what we're going to see is we're going to go from that document-centric computing into that people-centric computing. And the one key theme from the people-centric computing is activity streams where things flow by, right? And I know that some people are going to say, yeah, but then activity streams is going to turn itself into email, like email is today. Not really. And the reason why not really is because right now, for instance, in email, you no longer have control of your inbox. It's someone else taking over your inbox. On the activity streams, it's always you defining what gets into your activity stream and what doesn't get into your activity stream. So eventually we're going to see how that transition is going to take place. And what Chris is mentioning about what we're seeing now with files and documents is just that transition that needs to happen before we move into the activity streams.
And keep in mind, some services you offer force things into your stream. The administrators or the service itself, they force things. It could be an ad, it could be paid, but even connections, the administrator can force things into your stream.
And that's when filtering kicks in.
Yeah.
Okay, but by saying that, you're actually saying the tools are forcing the people. And we were talking about socials about people.
Correct.
Persons and individuals. And if you're actually saying, okay, we're moving into these streams and we're pushing them more, then what you're doing is you're, again, telling the people how they should work. If it's really social, allow them to work with either the folders or the stream, and don't force them to use either one of them. But give them the tools to do both.
Since you have the mic, tell people how to find you, because they're already told us we're done.
Okay. Sorry. So, I've got my own blog. It's on Femkegoedhart. It's femkegoedhart.blogspot.com, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook under Femkegoedhart, and most of all the other social networks that you can find all on Femkegoedhart.
Our website is community.net, and if you click there, you'll get links to every way.
And we can email.
Sorry?
Email
me. I won't reply.
Great. Don't email him, but yeah.
Well, mine is don't use email, obviously. But if you guys go into google.com and you type Lewis, L-U-I-S, you will find me there.
So mine's easy. Everyone knows I do notes. But the key thing is that we did record this. So if you need it for your business or you want to, replay, because I talk fast, I know. Then it'll be available online later to replay, but we were given the signal twice to get out and get ready for the next session. So anything else you need, find them after the session, balance-wise, but we'd like to continue this conversation. Right, they only gave us an hour. I think it could have been 2. Yeah. But, all right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lauren.
household thing.
Yeah.
Someone?
Oh yeah, tell them.